My name is Daniel Minter, and this is Drawing is Thinking. I learned to draw with coal from the fireplace, with burnt sticks from the fireplace. That's what I would initially use to draw with. I'd take a stick, put it into the fire, let it burn, and turn to charcoal, and then draw with that. And so, I believe because of that, I stopped drawing with charcoal for a long time and would only use graphite. But I've returned to charcoal, and I really enjoy it. And I go to the charcoal when I want to think quickly and broadly and freely, because a fat piece of charcoal. I mean, this one seems kind of thin and compressed, but compared to a piece of graphite, it's kind of fat. Yeah, I really enjoy the bigness that charcoal allows me to use to work with. But I think that I think I just thought of drawing with charcoal as something that a child did in front of the fireplace. So I just stopped using it so much. It kind of and so I feel like in a way it kind of cut me off from that a little bit, and so I really enjoy it now that I've returned to it. And so now I think some of my best thinking is done with charcoal. Another thing about drawing is I really like having things that I draw a lot. This is one of the things that I draw a lot. It's a shape, and so every time you draw an object, every time you draw something, you find. It gives you some type of interpretation of it. It's a reinterpretation of it, a rebuilding of it. Of that thing. You think you know it better. It's just like you draw an apple. You think you know what that apple wants, but then if you draw it again, you learn something even more about it. You draw it again, you learn something even more about it. You draw it again, you learn something more about that. Then you actually start learning things about yourself, and you start learning things about other things. You draw an apple, you start learning about things that apples are related to. You start learning about things that apples mean, the meanings of apples. You start learning not just about that object, but how we relate to that object, how we think of that object, and then what other people think of that object. So I think helps give me some perspective into other things, and gives me a way of explaining some of the things that happen in the world, or some of the situations that happen in the world, because we can only really understand something if we can somehow mentally visualize it. So the more ways I have of drawing things out to think about them, I feel like the better understanding I have, and the better I can communicate that to other people. Another thing about drawing something that you've drawn a lot that you feel that you know. Once you get to know that thing, since you've drawn it many times, you also realize that you don't have to draw it the way it actually is anymore. You know, you can change it if you want. It gives you, knowing that thing gives you the freedom to alter it. And since you know it so well, even when you alter it, enough of itself is still there so that it's recognizable. It's kind of like my wife and I were talking to our son about singing and dancing, about the singing traditional spirituals and doing dances, that you learn the dance. But once you learn it, you don't do it the way you learned it. You have to add something to it. You learn a song. You don't repeat it just the way you learned it. If you learned it right, you are able to add to it. You're able to add to that song, add something to it. You can use the same words if you want to, but coming out of your mouth, it's going to be different, and you want that difference that was put on it, that you put on it, to be recognizable as you. So you take these things and you use them as part of your way of communicating. See, just as I was sitting here, and just as I was getting into this, enjoying this drawing, and thinking about things we learn from plants, things we learn from animals, ended up thinking about a work project. Kind of ended up back at work again. It forced its way into what I'm doing. The other thing that I think about drawing is that it's technology. That drawing is a technology. That's really, really old. And we've used it to create new technologies. But it's the ability to think through an idea and share it visually. That's that technology. So the part about thinking about what this object is, that's initial and gone quickly as soon as I put the shape down. And then I can start thinking about so many other things. I can just and think about so many other things deeply and clearly, that you can't think of, that you can't not necessarily that you can't think of them if you're not drawing, but this act of drawing is allows those thoughts to flow more smoothly, I think.